All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. It is August. It's not August. I'm going to try again. It is October 18th, 2022. This is Committee of the Whole. It's 5:15. Um, okay. We're gonna really try here. We've got approval of the minutes, Committee of the Whole from September 20th, 2022. Were there any corrections or I would take a motion?
I'll make a motion for the minutes. I'm lost, sorry. Of the Committee of the Whole, September 20th of 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Ben, thanks for being here. We'll start with you. We have a report from Granite School District on the population analysis, and you have 20 minutes.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to recognize also Steve Hogan, who is our Director of Planning and Boundaries, who oversees this process for Granite School District. And it's going to be a fun few years for us as we look to close a number of schools across the district. As you're aware, and as we reported several months ago, maybe it was August. I wish it was still August, but the year has slipped by. Our population analysis process runs calendar year, and we just wanted to swing by and provide some additional reminders of where we're at in that process and what recommendations have been taken to the broader public. This page is linked off our main homepage, this population analysis studies. You can see there are boundary maps. There's 2022 studies and data tab at the top there. I'm actually going to go down and scroll here to this public feedback section because as we have been studying the final three options, as you are aware, we discussed last spring, we had gone out to the community and talked in general about 9 schools and peripheral schools and looking at potentially closing 2 to 3 schools in that area. Throughout the summer, after taking all that feedback, you can see the spring feedback there. And there's several hundred comments. All the nice and not so nice comments are all there for the public to see. The Population Analysis Committee recommended one of those studies to continue and started developing what ended up being 3 potential options for closures and boundary adjustments after analyzing, spending 4 or 5 meetings throughout the summer discussing those. Those were taken back out to the public in about a month ago. Actually, we just finished those up, and we've been doing local meetings with individual schools after that point. Those meetings were well attended, and we have all of that feedback collated now here at this link right here. So the interesting thing at this point in time is most people's concerns seem to be surrounding dual language immersion programs as tied to potential closures. So I'm going to go back to the bottom here where it has this button to go to the actual studies piece. And this page has all the information that we've collated as a result. This has the June presentation to the Board of Education and the open house meetings times and the 3 options that were proposed. I'm not going to go through each of these in detail unless there's specific questions. I'm hoping actually to take about 7 minutes, and then if necessary, we can answer additional questions. There's the full presentation that we shared at the September open house meetings right here. And then this is what we have our options summary. So I'm actually going to open that up and share that with you. This shows the 9 schools plus a few peripheral schools in the study and the 3 potential closure options. It shows the approximate capacity in this first column of these schools, what we call the facility condition rank, 64 being the best of our 64 elementary schools district-wide. So number 1 or a lower number is not a great figure. You can see Walker Elementary is in this study area. It is our newest and our best and most fantastic condition school. And then on this list also is Spring Lane Elementary, which is in this study area, probably the worst facility. Most of our schools actually fall in the 20 to 40 range. And that's a ranking, but they're still in need of improvements, right? And so we have to rank them somehow, but sometimes that group is clustered together more like a bell curve, if you can imagine. So school start times, something we take into consideration as we think about special programs that are at those particular school locations. And then as of May 2022, and we actually have this data updated, and all of these, almost every school is down in enrollment in this area, if you can imagine. I think
Will you speak into the microphone?
Yeah, come
You're
on up.
welcome to sit up there. Thank you.
Apologize. That information was updated today. The thing to keep in mind is there are what I would consider no significant changes, other than there are some slight decreases in some areas. One school has a slight increase, but nothing that's a game changer as far as what we're doing in the study.
And that would be the idea at this point in time, looking at the fall counts to see if there's dramatic adjustments or changes that might change the line of thinking for Population Analysis Committee and the Board of Education. So you can see current enrollments there, not dramatically changed. And then we have the three options. They're called option 3, A, B, and C. We didn't want to indicate that there's a preference because there isn't at this point in time. We wanted to give the community a broad base of options to consider. What's unique about this study is that in all three of these options, we did actually go through all 9 of these schools, and as a Population Analysis Committee, reviewed maps and said, if we close this school, we did one school closure, closed every school in this area, and imagined what that would look like. Went through 2 school closure options and closed every school in a 2 school closure option, and then went through and closed 3 schools in every 3 school closure option. What we find is that a 3 school closure option, we actually anticipated bringing 6 options to the community. 3 2 school closure options and 3 3 school closure options, as you can see that we have here. Ultimately, Population Analysis Committee decided that that would be disingenuous because the 2 school closure options did not get our remaining school numbers to where we wanted them to be. You guys remember us talking about having 3 teachers per grade level, some of these small school concerns that we've had. And so simply closing 2 schools would not solve the problem, and invariably we'd be coming back down the road and having to go through this very difficult, onerous process all over again. So pardon the euphemism, but we just wanted to rip off the Band-Aid and do the hard work and get our schools as close as we can on this particular study. So we did invariably come out with these 3 options. Unique to this study is the fact that Spring Lane and Twin Peaks are in every option. So in other closures in the past, we've usually said, okay, what happens if we close this school, or this school, and consolidate down here? Because we are looking at closing multiple schools. One of the biggest variables that we saw is that Twin Peaks and Spring Lane have the highest amount of open enrollment population leaving the school. Not just in terms of sheer numbers, roughly 200 kids per school leaving those schools and special permitting out and away, but in percentages as well. And so that was a pretty startling figure. If you look at that feedback from the spring meetings, we actually, you saw a number of comments that said people have already left our school, you should close this school, those kind of comments. And so Population Analysis Committee said, if people have already voted with their feet, why are we going to try to fight for them to come back to some of these school locations when they've chosen to go elsewhere already? And so that is kind of built into these options. And with the maps, I showed you the links where you can actually see the maps where these schools would break up into in terms of closures and where those boundaries would be adjusted to. So with that, you can see that Moss Elementary, Lincoln Elementary, and Mill Creek were the other 3 options being considered along with those other 2 school closures. And what we anticipate the population. Now we're trying to guess behavior here based on current and open enrollment data and patterns of what people are doing and choosing. And so those numbers are not going to be exact. We've tried to explain this in a number of our meetings. On the webpage that I just came from, there's also video links to the 2 open house meetings. We actually recorded those and broadcast those live streamed. So that people can go back and watch them as well, as they were probably our most comprehensive meeting in terms of questions. One of them lasted 2.5 hours. And so fun meetings, just great, exciting meetings, as you can imagine. So with that being said, there's no perfect plan, right? There's no plan that we were able to identify that would bring every school in the area up to those numbers that we desire. That being said, that we feel like the options do give us a good place to start. We anticipate coming back up into this area in the 2024 cycle and looking at some additional adjustments to kind of address the remaining problems and concerns. So with that, I don't want to take any more time. I'm more interested in what questions you might have for us, and I can point you to resources or we can answer that for you.
Have you approached Murray School District and annexing these into Murray School District at all? Have you approached them? Have they approached you? Have you looked at that?
Yes, they approached us, and the conversation was had between superintendents. And ultimately, the conversation is that doesn't actually solve our problem. And it actually, on Granite's front, causes additional problems. If we ceded those boundaries and Twin Peaks, in this particular case, over to Murray School District, we would still have a number of schools without sufficient numbers to get where we want them to be in an ideal situation, to that sweet spot, as it were. Additionally, that would hamper our feeders as well. And so that could cause additional problems for enrollment in the secondary feeders for Murray, and it would cause not enough kids to be at Bonneville Junior and ultimately Cottonwood High School. And so if you recall, our spring study was one of those was looking at adjusting feeder boundaries to enhance the enrollment at Cottonwood. And so we're certainly not interested in exacerbating that problem. So it didn't really work to address those types of concerns, and those conversations didn't really go much further than that.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a comment. My constituents will be very happy that Woodstock is not on the chopping block, because that's always been in, people thought that was going to happen. So that's a good thing.
I'll just say, of course, Woodstock was rebuilt just a number of years ago,
Right,
and they will be a receiving school, in fact, for most of Twin Peaks students. And so they will be inheriting and absorbing
No, that makes sense.
at least 100 students from that area.
Okay.
So, and they're happy. That's where Ben mentioned earlier that a lot of students were already, or families choosing already where to go, and we could see that pattern already happening. But yeah, like Ben said, there's no perfect solution. I think it works for most families and accomplishes the goals. But yeah, we're glad to have those schools evened out, and Woodstock community is very happy about that.
Thank you.
With the special programs, are they not able to be moved to an existing school? They're a school that's going to survive, I guess?
Right. We have the dual language immersion, for instance, at Spring Lane currently, and the proposal is to have those students move over to Oakwood Elementary.
Okay.
So they will be able to continue, and we have at least committed, at the very least, to allowing the current group to continue and next year's group that would be incoming in the first grade. So in our district, at least, the dual language immersions classes or programs are school-based, not district-based. So we can't just make the decision whether they continue. We made the decision for that school that they would continue there. In the next couple of years, that school can determine whether that program itself will continue. And if Mill Creek closes in one of those scenarios, the Spanish dual immersion program will combine with the Penn Spanish dual immersion program. And finally, one mention at Twin Peaks, there is a special education unit, 2 units there that handle some of our more severe students. And obviously they will go to another school. We just haven't decided which school yet.
Okay. The reason I ask is when you look at this breakdown, I mean, there's one option that seems to distribute the population much better than the other 2 options. And so it would seem like this is very more straightforward, I guess. But I understand the agony with closing and moving people around can be a lot. But it definitely looks like one option makes it more even, I guess.
There's this logical piece and the numbers piece to this discussion, and then there's the emotional piece, right? And there's other portions that we may not understand at the district level for our population analysis committee, and that's why it's important to have those community meetings. All told, we've gone to 87 meetings since February, once we started. So we have tried to go out far and wide and make ourselves as accessible as possible to know and understand what those concerns are. There's still a number, no matter what the final recommendation will be at the November meeting. There's going to be some other challenges, and we'll need to work through that. I'll be sure to share that recommendation with you once it's public and available. Our Population Analysis Committee meets tomorrow to make that final recommendation. And if need be, we've actually set aside time for an additional meeting if we can't come to a conclusion at that point in time. So we hope in the next week or so to be able to make those public so people who are impacted by that can then come to board meeting in November and December to make those additional concerns known. That emotional piece, right?
And I asked this the last time, but what will happen to the properties if they are vacant? Will you guys tear up the schools? What's the next step?
So it's going to be dependent on the school locations. Some of these facilities are in better condition than others. Under state law, if we were to surplus or to get rid of the property, particularly if it was within Murray, we would approach the city. The city would actually have the first right of refusal to purchase that property before we could go out onto the open market. I don't believe that the Real Estate Committee and the Board of Education is interested in disposing of property at this time. And the idea is that we have lots of other programs looking for space, and there's lots of other ways we could utilize those facilities to ensure and maximize programming for kids. For instance, one of our close schools right now in Kearns, Ochre Hills Elementary, is serving as our online hub. And so it's actually still working and functioning as a school for our online programs. Roosevelt Elementary in South Salt Lake, I mentioned at the time, I believe that we're in discussions with Mill Creek City to turn that into a dog park. The open campus space, but the actual facility is still being used for some of our alternative programs. And there's more need for growth there. So we actually anticipate that some of these facilities will continue to function as educational facilities, just not as a local neighborhood school. We do anticipate that there would be opportunities, depending on which option comes forward, that we would approach you or some of our other municipal partners about making sure that space remains open for our community to enjoy. Some of these schools will serve as lifeboats when we rebuild other schools, so we'll temporarily use it as a school while we rebuild the other location. So it makes sense for a myriad of reasons to maintain that property and that open space, not just as a benefit to the district, but also as a benefit to the general community.
Is there a need for alternative schools? I mean, I know the state's looking for other placements, but is that one alternative you guys could use, or something that's
absolutely?
immediate?
And there's nonprofit groups that are looking for spaces. There's a myriad of different opportunities that might exist for those campuses. And actually, one instance that's come up that is actually turning some of these older schools into studio apartments and renting them out at a subsidized rate to our brand new teachers. So utilizing that as an incentive to draw more employees into our district with another added benefit. So we're looking at every potential option, and if and when there's some major decision to be made about that, we'll be sure to reach out to the city and communicate that and make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I definitely would love to see the green space maintained as much as possible, and I know you guys do that pretty well. But in just supporting that, and I think even the
We would
community-
absolutely continue to maintain the property no matter what. Occasionally, say a building is not used by any program for even a couple of years. We will maintain that property just like we always have. The last thing we want is for that to become a hazard or a public nuisance or an attractive nuisance for students. We have 2, I think, in the district out of our almost 70 elementary properties that are like that now. We have custodians that routinely still go through those buildings, turn on the water, turn on the lights, just keep them in running order. And so at the very least, that would be our commitment.
But
Thank you.
so you could possibly leave some of them vacant?
Depending on what the plans for those future buildings might be, we've not made any plans. We don't want anybody to feel like a decision's already been made. But you know that the CTE director reached out to me the other day and said, when's the final PAC decision? I want to go look at some of these facilities for expansion of my welding program, right? And so there are people who need space and are thinking about those kind of things. Once the decision's made, and we're working towards a school closure, then we would start looking at potential options for those facilities. And some of those might be just maintaining the building for a short period of time until it can be used for another program. Sandburg Elementary is an excellent example of that. It remained vacant for about 2 years. It was still maintained and kept in orderly fashion, so it didn't become an attractive nuisance. And now our Granite Education Foundation uses that as a warehouse for its facilities and a storage space.
Okay. It would be preferable if you don't leave them vacant. I mean, I guess you probably know that as well, but
We do.
that's a big concern. So.
Yes, when we say vacant, meaning there's no active programming, then there's still, as he's indicated, a custodial supervisor assigned to that facility, and it's maintained and checked on a regular daily basis.
Okay.
And so we absolutely recognize the challenge of facilities when there's not people in them.
Right.
Rocks get thrown, things start happening,
Right.
and the last thing we want is one of our facilities become an attractive nuisance. I can see in particularly Spring Lane Elementary as an older facility that's not in great condition, there might be a situation where we just simply decide to raise that facility and just maintain the green space. That would be a cheaper option for us potentially. So we haven't decided on any of those things yet because we have not made a decision on which schools will be what that final closure will be.
Okay. All right. As long as you're aware. It sounds like you are. So, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, with all your meetings, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Steve, for coming and talking to
Did we
us.
come in under 20 minutes? Or
Oh,
we just
I think exactly at. I think you
Okay.
nailed it.
We're going to take that as a win.
So thank you for all of the information. We appreciate it.
Yeah, please let us know if there's any other questions you might have.
Absolutely. All right, Brenda, she's going to come talk to us about prepaying for a new fire apparatus. Looks like she's got backup. Hey, Chief.
Okay, so we're here because we have a fire bucket truck that's going to wear out, not for a couple years, but in order to get a new replacement truck, the lead time is at least 2 years, if not longer. And as part of that, they, the Pierce Manufacturing, they offer prepayment discounts if you prepay. And so we did a little study. The reason that we're talking to you about this, it requires no budget if we order a truck now. 3 years from now, yes, it will be on the budget, but we are saving for this apparatus. And then the if we prepaid it, it actually would not require a budget opening at that point because it is the accounting term is it's a prepayment. We haven't spent the money, we haven't got the thing yet, so it would be sitting in our prepaids for 2.5 years. And so we're just going to talk to you a little bit about it and then kind of tell you what our decision is and what we've come up with. But since it's a large amount of money, we thought you should be aware that we're going to order something now. And 3 years from now, the council is going to have to put it in the budget to pay for it. So so Joey's got some pictures and he'll explain what we're doing.
Just trade?
Yeah. Let's just,
Oh, there we go.
sorry, we've got a little.
Look at that.
Technical difficulty.
Yep. You guys didn't know Brenda did IT as well, so I love it. All right, so this is our current truck that you guys see in front of us. I say the word truck because there's actually 3 different names for these that we'll talk about: a ladder, a tower, and a tiller. A truck, as far as just a generic term as we talk about this. So our current one is what we call a tower, and it is, if I go back, it's that bucket that those guys are standing in. There's certain advantages to something like that versus a ladder. And we'll talk a little bit about that so you guys know what we're looking at purchasing, so you guys are aware, because this serves you guys ultimately and our surrounding cities as well, as far as that give and take, because we have surrounding. We're definitely taking a little bit more from them than we're giving currently, just because we're trying to preserve right now our tower out there. So currently it's a 2,905-foot platform, or what they call a tower, and it has a 2,000-gallon pump. However, on the last 2 testings, our 2,000-gallon pump is actually only pumping at 1,500 gallons. So over time, that pump does something what they call cavitate, and it reduces the amount of gallons per minute, is GPM, that it actually pumps out the end to actually do the defensive fire operation. So like water spraying down. On this tower, we actually station it at Station 83, and that might be one of your guys' questions. Why is it down there in the middle of a residential neighborhood? And the reason why is because that's our slowest station. That station responds on 27% of the calls throughout Murray out of the 3, and Station 81 and 82 covers the other rest of the calls. 81 is our busiest station right now, and that's our one, of course, in the middle of the industrial / also apartments area and so forth. But
Where's
with that,
83?
83 is the 500 West, 5900 South. And then 82 is the one up on the east side by your place. And then 81 is the one downtown. And so the one by the hospital is officially not a house station right now. We're keeping that property a lot like what the school district just went through, is we know Murray is not getting slower, and one day we may need that location. So we pay, I think it's $500 a year to just keep that facility. And we actually use that facility heavily, and people are in and out of that every day. And in fact, even at nighttime, they're in and out of it because it's our EMS supply house as well as our reserve ambulance. So it might as well be a full station. It just, you never know when somebody comes up there. I think I'm going to go wash my car quietly there, my department car there. Then all of a sudden I'm filled with a bunch of guys, and I'm like, I came here for peace and quiet. But yeah, that doesn't happen there. It has served as that premier firefighting tool for us. That bucket we have used a lot on a lot of different areas. However, the dynamics of Murray has changed quite a bit. One of the reasons that we're here today is because on November 1st, they have a price increase at Pierce that they had reached out to us. And obviously, it's a little bit of a sales gig. But bottom line is everything is increasing, so we appreciate that friendship. And it's 6.5% times that $1.7 million. You guys can do your math in your head, and that's hundreds of thousands that it's going to increase. And we also have a delayed wait time. So between that, they also have a price increase that's not approved yet, but is slated for February, as well as the delivery time would be May of 25. And then when I got my papers, it actually says between May and December of 25. So it actually bumps it out clear to 36 months, which I'm like, please no, but we'll make it work. And increasing, narrowing roads out there, and then the high density housing, I put that on because since 2009, we've had a lot of growth in Murray, moving up, not out, obviously. But when it moves up, typically developers want those narrowing areas to squeeze everything that they can in. That requires a little bit different of an apparatus than what we had purchased in 2009. And that apparatus has to be able to get around some corners and needs to be able to steer. Increasing call volume is obviously, we wear out that tower. We're definitely one of the busier towers around. Here's our options that we looked at. It was a $1.7 million ladder. That's the picture on the top there. They correlate with where they're sitting. The 2.1 is if we were to replace the exact one that we had on that. That is, when I say premier firefighting, it's also the premier piece of equipment, like land-wise. It's hard to drive that thing. It has a 4-foot tail swing, so when you make a left-hand turn in a lane, if there's a car next to you, you got to have 4 feet of space. Otherwise, you'll take out that car and everybody inside of it. So the drivers on it are crucial for that. But it does provide a bucket. There's benefits. However, as we went down this, you're going to find out we didn't select that same piece. And then the other one is on the bottom. This is the premier equipment and also ladder. But you look, this is UFA's tiller is what they call it. And it doesn't have a bucket. They don't make these with a bucket. Otherwise, we would probably be selected. It's got the ladder, but it takes more manpower than what we have, is why I point that out. Is a lot of our guys would love this piece of equipment, but those cabinets on the back side, you can put all kinds of stuff in there that, we put in other rigs. It does cost a little bit more, but the biggest cost is that extra manpower is an additional roughly 3 people total overall, because I need 1 person per shift to make sure, because it takes a guy in that back end to drive it. And that's what that tiller is. But it goes everywhere. It actually turns just like a fire engine. Our smaller ones, it can get in and out because there's 2 drivers. It is crazy to watch. this is the one that our committee selected. I put this up. We had one of our battalion chiefs, engineers, captains, so forth. I have a little cool video for you. I just realized I didn't click on it. I apologize. We have this ridiculous commercial. And then you're going to watch this thing drive right now. So this is an all-steer mid-mount. This is even bigger, but as you notice, it can follow. The white one is the engine in front. And then the yellow one is the all-steer. It's gonna point out the rear axle turns. And I like you guys, sorry for the silly music, but you see the wheels turn with it. It'll actually save us a little bit of money on tires. This is the impressive one where they can actually make this turn. Our current one would be double the distance on this to make that and follow along. It kind of chases its own tail is what it does. So I'm going to get out of our fun video that's an advertisement and then get back to this. All right, we've lost it. There we go, back to the screen. Okay, so this is what the committee put together because it fits with our manpower and it also fits with our drivability around with our industrial setting of like apartments as well as our industrial needs. And so being that they came to me with this, I don't have any reason to counter them with a tiller or a tower, and it'll fill our firefighting obligations. The positive news is it is our cheapest one out there. It's the 1.7, so let's go over that. It's a 107-foot ladder with all steer rear wheels, and then it roughly the cost is $1.7 million on that. I have the final minus they messed up one. We do have to have this signed by November 1st to be able to make sure, before November 1st, to make sure that we have
Will
that.
ours be black?
No. The key thing, I should go back to this. The committee selection, they selected this, but it will be a much cooler color than this, being yellow. And yeah, you know, the tempting thing was to actually, if we had a tiller besides Hawaii, I think we would be one of two places to ever have a yellow tiller. It's actually pretty cool to be, have those yellow rigs floating around because they're not too often out there. It does make it a little harder for a resale later color-wise or a purchasing. You have to have it, ordered. If they have one that's in production that you want to grab, it's always going to be red. It's just the way it is.
What was the height difference between this and the bucket truck that we already have?
This is actually 2 feet longer than our bucket truck that we have. They all serve the same purpose as far as you always want them to reach right around 100 feet. The max that you can build to the base footing of a floor is 75 feet without putting more or less a fire truck built into the building. And so the hospital has a fire truck in the basement of it, which means there's a fire pump, a standpipe, hoses that we connect. And then that's why that is because we can reach to the top of anything below 75 feet or below. So the ladder is a trick. That goes 107 straight up, but you got to lay it down a little bit to the building. So everything else is like, I won't speak of past buildings because some of them didn't turn out so well. Like we'd love to have a 500-foot truck, but yeah, it just ain't happening. So nobody makes that.
Can you talk about why we don't have a 500-foot truck? What our fire marshals do?
Yeah. As far as what the fire marshals do is they build that into, so in the bottom of IMC, an IMC sits at like 280 feet, but it sits with the size of pump, that fire engine. It has a 2,000-gallon pump, as well as every 150 feet you walk in the hospital, you'll see a hose cabinet. So we haul hoses into the building, hook up to those cabinets, and the pump automatically kicks on. And everywhere we walk within 150 feet, we have our fire engine with us. And so that's what the fire marshal makes sure he gets done in those buildings. Where these apartments that are going in, they specifically build them so they stay underneath the 75 foot so they don't have to put a fire truck in it, because that's over 100,000 for them to be putting the pump. It's probably more than that. That's an old number.
All right.
So long
Thank you.
ago that I was in that spot. Not really, but inflation happens quick.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
So Brenda has a little bit more for some of the money with the prepayment. Sorry I took so much time with that.
That's okay. Okay. So the prepayment the numbers have gone up slightly, but the exercise works the same. So at 1.575, they offered a $78,000 discount if we would prepay the entire thing and then wait. And then the chassis, they've offered a separate one if you want to just prepay the chassis. So what I did is I ran it through a little spreadsheet to figure out, we are currently earning 2.5% on our money right now. 6 months ago, I would have done this in a shot because we were earning 0.4. And so, so I ran it in for 31 months. It looks like it could be up to 35 months. And that would be, it would cost us an interest approximately $20,000 at 2.5% interest. And then if you go up, it's 3.5% interest. It would cost us an additional $61,000. So we would lose money if we prepay. Other times we would gain money. Their thing is, I think the math on this for just the truck is they've got it in at a 2% interest rate as long as we earn more than 2. So our big gamble is, do we pay them in a guaranteed 2% or do we just wait? And I'm thinking interest rates are going up and they're going to go up for a while. And our money is slowly, well, not slowly, it's very quickly moving up into the 3-4% range. So we probably, well, I pretty much guarantee we will not be paying for the entire truck. If we switch to the next one where we just pay for the chassis, we don't save quite as much money at 2.5%. This one is more calculated at 1.5, would break even. But I still don't think I'm willing to gamble on waiting and saving this money in our CIP plan where it's gaining interest and just ordering the truck. I don't know, we might have to prepay a little bit of something, a down payment, but
so the prepayment, it looks like in the contract, if we don't do anything, if we canceled before they have any other items after we sign, it's a 10% loss. If we canceled after, as soon as they have a base of the chassis, it's 20%, and then at 30% is if they have it in full production. Then, and say in 3 years you guys were like, absolutely no, then it would cost us a 30% is what we would be signing on that contract.
So my recommendation is we just order this truck and we wait our 3 years. And by the time the 3 years rolls around, because we have started saving for this in the CIP plan where he gets $800,000-ish a year. And he started saving. He's got enough there now we could pay for it, but he's got other needs first. This need doesn't really happen for a couple more years, the big need, but it's 2 years out, 3 years out almost. So that's why we're ordering it. That's why we're just telling you about it, telling the citizens about it. We're going to order a truck, and in 3 years, we're going to have a brand new truck rolling out there.
Any questions from you guys?
I have one question. What if the future city council does not approve the truck? Then what happens?
So it would go back to that contract. If it was before, if you guys came to us next month, you changed your mind after we had signed, it would cost us 10% to get out of that contract. If we changed it in about 12 months is when they actually put that chassis down. And so if something happened, we'd want to cancel out of that, and that would be before would be 10%. After that point is 20%.
So it would just increase.
And then it would go to the 30% as our top. So I don't know what 30% of 1.7, but it's somewhere around
Gary?
$500,000.
I deferred to Gary.
540?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So
Okay. I was just curious,
No, it's
we can't
great.
predict what the future council's going to say or do, but
Yep.
or what
Can't know
and
that.
I know we talked about this, but there is funding in your CIP, correct?
Yes, there
pay
is.
for this,
And
okay.
then I realize also going forward with this funding, if by chance I would be risking cutting out other projects if that was the case. But when you look at my priority list, as soon as we get the stuff that's on it right now moved out, then this would be my next priority for that. So
Perfect.
unfortunately, it's 30 to 36 months out. Well, let's hope for 24, but I'm not holding my breath. So
Thank you.
And this runs on diesel.
yes, it does. I believe that amount would probably be. I've never seen an electric ladder truck before. They have the engines yet. I won't hold my breath on that either because I know that's a bad bet. I think there will be eventually. Anyhow, I drove an electric vehicle down to St. George in Las Vegas, and that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Anyhow, my dad got. I was blown away.
I know they're
How slick that
pretty
was.
cool.
So you said that the one fire truck needs to have the pump. Can you replace the pump?
We could.
This? Or do you not want to put any money into it? Or
So we had looked at doing that to see if we could extend out, and we'll be over $500,000 to revamp the current truck that we have to get it to what they call refurb. So our 2001 engine, we put $320,000 in to refurb it, and that was the pump build, the engine rebuild, the chassis, they sand down everything. But yeah, it's not worth it. It's providing what we need for the 1,500 gallons.
yeah,
What I'm doing right now is it's in service because South Salt Lake's tiller is late to arrive. And so once their tiller goes back in, I'm going to put it back in. If we need it, we go get it, but they run out of 3 engines right now. So we're putting a Band-Aid on it, and it's serving us well. As soon as South Salt Lake gets their tiller to arrive, hopefully in 3 or 4 months, but it'll be all right. I have every bit of confidence, mainly because that guy that we talked about at the gala their mechanic works for us.
Yeah.
So as an engineer, and he tells me it'll happen, and I've never seen him besides the lawnmower wheel that I told you guys about. He's spot on, Brian McNeil, and he is. Everybody, they bid for his service for them to be having him work on their trucks. So
and are you going to be able to design it the way that your firefighters and all that? Because I was looking at the design and the schematics on it, and I'm going, oh, I hope you are going to put some words on.
Yep. We spend quite a bit. I've already just building this truck out. We probably, between Mac, Nick, and I, we've spent over 100 hours just detailing, and we're not even close. So we have the next 12 months to spec this out. And that's why I think we got it nailed in close enough to be that 1.7. If we miss something, that's at my own downside of our CIP money. And then Brenda says, well, you got to take it from somewhere, and we'll find it.
And
this gal works with us fantastic.
Well, like the Cutter's house, we have to spend money to save money. So,
Yep.
But at our conference, at the ULCT conference, they talked about firefighters and police, and they were quoting that they're projecting 55,000 people every single year coming to the state of Utah. That's practically a new Murray.
Yeah.
And they were saying that we're going to need like 52 firefighters and 6 more fire engines and 54 more police officers and 66 police vehicles. So if they're projecting 55,000 more residents here in the state of Utah, we're going to need this piece of equipment.
I'm going to say, stop talking. I think Brenda might have a seizure because she sees dollar signs attached.
I know.
To...
But that was one of the presentations there, and it was a shocker because I'm going, 55,000, where are we going to put these people? But
we're on par for record. We'll have a record call volume this year.
Yeah.
It's just, it is what it is. We can talk more and stuff about it, the causes where we can reduce down. And it's such a great discussion, though. It's coming.
It is.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, and that is the end of our agenda. So if there's no objections, we are adjourned until council at 6:30.
Now 6:30. And time to start the Murray City Municipal Council meeting for October 18th, 2022. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Also, we have the council is present. I'd like to welcome the mayor and Brooke. Where's GL? Is he coming? Okay. And then GL will be here. Okay. Also, if you have a cell phone and if you would either put it to silent or turn it off, I would appreciate it. We have a Pledge of Allegiance, and Lauren Pasalich has said he would conduct it. So thank you, Lauren.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Lauren's from the Murray Chamber of Commerce. We really appreciate your being here and being willing. All right, now we are at the special recognition portion. And, oh, wait. Sorry, I skipped the approval of minutes. We have approval of one set of minutes, and that's for the council meeting for September 20th, 2022.
I'll make a motion that we approve the council meeting minutes for September 20th, 2022.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, passes. Now we are at the special recognition, and that is Murray City Council Employee of the Month, who is Zachary Smallwood. And Jared and myself will be presenting with the mayor's comments. What a pleasure to be able to present this to Zachary Smallwood. Jared will give you all the pertinent information on why he chose him, but I think I have an idea. He's wonderful, and we so appreciate your contributions to our city. You get to have your name up on that plaque, and it'll be there in our new city hall and forever. We started that. How long ago, Mayor, did you start this? 9 years? Wow. So anyway, do you want to say anything? Would you like to? I know. We all love Zach, so anything.
Yeah, we appreciate Zach, and this is a pleasure for us to be able to nominate him as the Employee of the Month. And Zach, we see Zach often in council meetings, and he presents all the time with our planning commission. Very involved. In fact, he's on the Midvale.
I was.
Oh, are you done?
Yes.
When did you get off?
This is January.
Okay, so I was thinking you're still on that, but he used to be on the Midvale Planning Commission. So he's heavily involved, and he has a passion for his position with Jared, and he's heavily involved. And anyway, just without going on more, I just wanted to, from the administration, and other employees wanted to tell you how much we appreciate you, Zach. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We also have this $50 gift card, and she gets to have this certificate to commemorate it. And now, Jared, would you like to?
Sure. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. No, absolutely. I wore my serious clothes and everything. So this is, I wanted to point out that this certificate will very shortly be pinned to a bulletin board with a couple of Disney pins really soon. Disney pins that are worth more than a month's salary of mine. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and, if it's all right, I'm just going to read a little bit of the nomination blurb. Is that what we call that? Nomination blurb? And then I'll take just a second. Recently, Zach took on the task of assuring that the City of Murray came into compliance with the changes that were required by the state for moderate income housing, for plans and for the new, more robust reporting. He started working on that immediately. A lot of cities and a lot of departments and other groups like that waited. Zach did not. He was on it as soon as we knew it was going to be required. That work involved the Planning Commission, the City Council, and a full review of our existing plan. It detailed the state's new requirements and took us all through that examination of all of our options and what the implications of those options would be. Zach is detail-oriented, and as the mayor said, not only is he detail-oriented, but Zach truly loves the work that he does, and that makes the biggest difference. I'm just gonna cherry pick a couple other points here, and then he can read it at his leisure after that. So that was kind of the impetus for my wanting to nominate Zach for Employee of the Month, because we had gotten through that big process, and a lot of cities have now fallen short of complying with that rule. Zach made sure that not only did we comply, but that we did it in spectacular fashion. We're fully updated. He's most of the way through data that needed to be updated. Well, didn't need to be updated, but is going through that as well. He approaches every task that way. So this was the impetus, the Modern Income Housing Plan, but really, more importantly than all of that is that Zach approaches all of those tasks with an energy and with a dedication, not just to Murray City and the communities that we build here, but to planning in general and to those principles, and always keeps me from getting jaded or from getting too down on the things that we need to do. And these are hard tasks. These are not easy phone calls. These are not easy emails or conversations to have with folks. And he never loses sight of the goal of what we do. And I just really appreciate that. We have a really strong planning team, and Zach is an integral part of that, a key piece of that. And ever since we brought him on board, we've been grateful for that. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank him for that publicly, and to say we're always glad that he's still with us and doing the work that he does. We're lucky every day that happens.
Yeah, I guess so. Awesome.
You get to say whatever you want.
Okay.
And I know how you love to talk.
I do. Yes. So I want to thank the council and the mayor and all the city employees. You guys are all really awesome. I love working for this city. I'll just tell this little anecdote. You know, when I was applying out of grad school, I put out a number of applications, and no offense to any of you here, but I didn't want to work at Murray. I wanted to work at Salt Lake City. I wanted to work at a private firm or something like this. But I got offered the job and I decided to take it, and I've never regretted a day of that. I tell Jason every day, or not Jason, I tell Jared every day. Having two J's as your boss and then as your husband, you just you get them confused often. So I tell Jared every day that, you know, I love coming into work. I wake up every day excited to come to work. Also, I want to thank Jason. He's there in the back. So he's embarrassed. So he has helped me get through this. As some of you know, I was a high school dropout. And when I was about 25, I decided I didn't want dead-end jobs anymore. So I went back to school and got, you know, a GED, then my bachelor's and then my master's. So, and he's been there in my rock the whole way through, pushing me when I wasn't wanting to do it anymore. So I wouldn't be here without him and stuff. So thank you all again. I very much appreciate it. So yeah, that's it. So thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We are so lucky, and we have such wonderful employees, and that just gives you look at one of them. So anyway, thank you. And thank you again. And you don't have to stay if you don't want to. So Oh, that's true, you do. All right, I lied. You better be here.
Thank you so much, Zach. I think we've learned a lot from you. I have personally, and I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm sure we all can agree to that. And your passion for Murray is not, we can tell, and we really appreciate it. And really, you're building great communities, and you're really conscious with what your knowledge is and what's trending and what we can do here in the city. And thank you, Jason, for being such a great support as well.
And I think there was a statement made that the passion like exudes through. You can tell how passionate he is about what he does. And what I appreciate is some of the stuff you talk about is very dry and boring, and I want to take a nap. But because you love it so much, it makes me excited. I'm like, okay, we got to get this zoning going, and this kind of thing, because you're very excited about it. So we do appreciate that.
All right. We'll continue on. We have another special recognition, and that's the presentation of a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. And Mayor Hales will be presenting.
Thanks,
There
Diane.
you are.
You're looking over there. I beat you. And we know Zach's exciting because his boss is so boring, Jared. I'm not kidding you. Where is he? He's right there. I'm not kidding you. To keep up with Jared,
Right.
you have to be in pretty good shape, because he's hard to keep up with because you don't know where he's going. So that's a compliment to you, Jared. It feels like a compliment. We love you. Anyway, yeah, congratulations, Zach and Jason. Thank you for being here. Brenda Moore, come on up. Brenda is our finance director. I know most of you don't know her. No, I'm kidding. You're so well known here because you're the one asking for money all the time. So Brenda got an award, and this is called the Government Finance Officers Association. So this is a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and it was presented in Murray City Corporation, Utah, for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021. I understand, which I don't remember this, but you get this award often. Is that correct?
Every year for 41 years.
Every year for 41 years? Wow. That is a lot. I didn't think it was that long of a period of time, but that is long. Can you imagine whoever takes Brenda's place and they don't get this? Oh, that's not going to be good.
That might be one term.
That's right. They might have the council saying,
That'd
how
be
come you didn't
41
get that
years.
award? Now, please tell me, I was going to give this to you, and I said, please don't tell me this is her certificate. You got one, right?
We get a little thing from we used to get trophies,
Oh.
but there were 40 of them, and now they're putting it.
No, they're little ones. Well, this thing was so flimsy, I was going to put it in I was going to have Cindy laminate it for you and put it in a thing, but I thought this is pathetic. So anyway, we're appreciative of you, Brenda, and really we're appreciative of all that Brenda does. Can I tell you, I've only been in this position 9 months, and Brenda, you have been a huge blessing to this city. You have also been wonderful as a council member. I loved what you did, but as being the mayor here, you really have backed me, and you have been amazing. So I just want to thank Brenda, and I think we need to give Brenda a big applause, and her department a big applause. You want to say something? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Brenda, and I think she's going to talk about some of those people over there. So thanks, Brenda.
So I am only as good as the people who work for me. So 3 of them have come today. We've got Robin Hirschgold, who she was here anyway because she works every Monday and Tuesday night when it's payroll late so that we can all get paid on time. Yeah, and everybody appreciates that. That is our number one priority in the finance department, is getting everybody paid on time. The person next to her is Emily Barton. She is the controller. She took my place, and I'm thinking she is one of the best hires that I could have ever made. So anyone who is a controller knows that you got to have extreme attention to detail, and she does. And that helps in everything. And she's very good at managing people, and I'm so happy about that. And then we've got Joanne Miller, who is a short timer in the city, sort of. Another 9 months, 7.5 months. But she is our senior accountant, and she does a wonderful job. No one ever realizes that roads and sidewalks and stuff are fixed assets. And she is the person who gets to track all of those and figure out what we're doing. And along with receivables and anything else you could ever ask. So I am only as good as the staff, and they do a wonderful job. The auditors were here last week. They so far have found one math error that I made, and that was it. So as they're working through our stuff. And it's a wonderful thing. So hopefully next year we will get the same award. We keep making sure our financial statements are up to the standards that the GFOA sets. And I don't want to be the person that stops the streak. So we will keep working on them. Thank you.
As a fellow accountant, I just want to congratulate you all on that award. It even in private industry, financial reporting is one of the hardest areas to get right, and the fact that we get recognized time and time again for that is an exceptional testament to all of you and the hard work you do. So thank you for everything you do.
Ditto. You guys are awesome. So thank you. I always hear from people outside that when they find out I'm a Murray Council member, how well Murray is, how well we're financed and managed. And, it's because of the people that work for us. And thank you, and work for our citizens. So anyway, these are just some of them. All right. Anything else? If not, I'll continue on. Now we're at citizen comments. These comments will be limited to 3 minutes. You can step to the microphone, state your name and your city of residence, and fill out the required form that Jennifer has over here. We also have a public hearing. So if you want to comment on the public hearing, that's not this. This is just for any citizen who would like to make a comment to the council. So, Lawrence.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Horman. If not all of the council know me, many of the people here know me. I get up and speak on a regular basis. And as far as where I'm from, I am here in Murray. My address is where I am standing at the time because I am technically homeless. And that is what I am here to speak about today. Number one, I will just thought you might like to know I'm not haunting just this city council meeting. I have been making a point of going to city councils around the valley over the last few weeks, which is why you haven't seen me maybe as often. And I intend to go to every single city's council at least once to introduce them to the Deseret Defiant packet, which you all have a copy of already. But while I'm up here, I want to encourage you to start looking. And this is where having the city planning people in the room at the time is actually a good idea. And I'm glad they're here today. At seriously considering the idea of an authorized, properly maintained campground for the homeless, parking for the homeless, whether it's in tents or vehicles. There is a coalition that is not the county coalition that I've spoken of before, that is trying to get such a thing done. And the city of Salt Lake and the city of South Salt Lake are taking on most of the homeless residential issues at this time. And that is unfair to them since the homeless are throughout the valley. They are from the entire valley. They are not just the poorest of people before they became homeless. Their situations you've got people that have been lawyers and doctors and everything else that are now homeless, and because of whatever circumstance they're there now. And we all need your help, and we need it to be spread around so that everybody can tolerate it, and so that the resources can be made available enough to make it so that everybody has a chance to get back to something where they are helping and contributing and supporting themselves. And the thing that is most necessary in order to help resolve homeless issues, the two most important things are housing. You can't solve homelessness without housing. And tents may not seem like a home, but if it's all you have, it can be a home. And continuing supportive services that don't go for a week or two or a couple months, 60 days, 90 days, sometimes longer than that, depending on the person's need. And each person has individual needs. So I would like to encourage you to consider this, to encourage other cities to do the same thing. There was recently a thing done through the county for a temporary shelter for the winter. And apparently Mill Creek was the ones that actually got their area picked, but all of the cities were asked or required, I don't know which, to contribute. I would like to suggest, I promise I won't be but a second or two longer. I would like to suggest that you guys be the city to start encouraging the idea of an authorized campground somewhere besides downtown, and maybe more than one. It
Thank
would
you,
make a big
Lawrence.
difference. Thank you.
Do we have any other citizen comments? Yes?
Ian Wade, live in Murray, relatively new. My wife and I have been here for a couple of years. And the topic I wanted to talk about was the kind of water shortage that we're all aware of. Great Salt Lake drying up and the drought that's been with us for a decade. I was at a climate conference that John Curtis organized last week. And one of the topics that came up was, what can we do to conserve more water? The head of the Natural Resources Department, let's see if I remember his name, Joel Ferry, sorry, spoke at one of the breakout sessions, and he was talking about removing grass that doesn't get used. And I know that Murray is sort of already on that track with taking the curb strip out and providing an incentive for that. So what I wanted to suggest for your consideration is that you expand that program from the curb strips to other unused grass. We happen to live in an area where we have a massive amount of grass that the only time it gets used is when people run a lawnmower over it, which it could be a lot more attractive if there was water-wise plants. My wife has been a garden designer for years and has designed some great gardens for us that are much more attractive than looking at grass. And that's basically what I wanted to say. I think we could make the city more attractive and also save water.
Great. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate your comments. And I agree. Okay, anyone else? No one else? Okay. Then we will continue on. Sure, there's no one else. Okay. We do not have any consent agenda, so we'll go to the public hearing, and we have one public hearing tonight. It is to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 17.16 and Sections 17.08.020, 17.36.050, 17.52.150, 17.54.090, 17.54.100, 17.56.080, 17.56.090, 17.56.100, 17.56.110, 17.56.111, 17.120, 130, 140, and 17.60.060 and 17.170.050 and repealing section 17.12.110 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to land use appeals and variance.
Could you repeat that one more time?
I was just going to ask if Rosalba wrote it.
It's in my packet.
Jared Hall and Zachary Smallwood presenting. Oh my goodness.
I know. I am so sorry. But in the long run, this will be a lot easier because you won't have to read all those sections if we ever have to amend it again. So this is a request from the Planning Division and the Attorney's Office. We have been working on cleaning up some land use language. We had some mixed language when it came to appeals and variances, and we'll get into that here in a moment. But yeah, it amends a bunch of chapters in the land use ordinance and streamlines everything, and it's applied citywide. So there's some definition changes. I'm just going to highlight some of the bigger things. There's a lot of just little word tweaks here and there, but I'll just kind of go over the big overarching changes. So one was the definition changes. So one, we've moved the definitions from in the individual chapter into our definition section. That's kind of a goal of mine, is to move everything that has a definition in the definition section because it shouldn't be separated. And so there was a previous unclear description of directly aggrieved person that was kind of vague on who would be able to apply for an appeal and things like that. And no single location of where that was at. So we do have a new definition that is based on the state language that was adopted either this past legislative session or the one before. It largely just says a person other than a land use applicant who owns real property adjoining the property that is subject to a land use application or a land use decision, or will suffer a damage different in kind than or an injury distinct from that of general community general community as a result of the land use decision. That's all very legalese, but helps us kind of understand that a little bit more. So the next biggest part is clearer text. So originally everything under a standard of review, all the appeals and the variances were just lumped together in one group. That was very difficult for some of the people that we would have discussions with to kind of understand because there are very strict state requirements for variances that you don't have to meet in an appeal. Those are different. And so we broke those out into their own sections so that they make sense. Let's see, removed conflicting language. I kind of mentioned this in the committee of the whole. There were a bunch of different sections that claimed different time frames for when somebody was allowed to appeal. You had 30 days, you had 30 calendar days, and some were 10 days. And it also would try to explain when that shot clock would happen. So sometime it was, after the written decision or after the vote was taken. There were a few different options there. So we streamlined that. Again, took just guidance from the state so that it is now the date 10 days from the written decision of the land use authority, except in two cases, which is for reasonable accommodation. Those are for group homes, and a historic preservation authority regarding a land use decision. So those are going to be 30 calendar days. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 1st of 2022. 23 notices were sent to affected entities. There wasn't much comment about it because this is pretty dry and not very fun. So the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to forward a recommendation of approval. So staff does find that the text amendments have been carefully considered to provide greater clarity to both the city staff and the public. The proposed text amendment addresses conflicts that exist in the land use ordinance, and these changes will make it easier to read for more of our citizenry and applicants. Then also, it does meet it is consistent with the goals and mission of Murray City to guide growth, to promote prosperity, and sustain a high quality of life. And again, Planning Commission voted 5-0 for approval. So with that, we, staff, and the Planning Commission recommend that you approve the text amendment. Questions, comments?
Thank you for going over this again. As you mentioned, you also went over it with us in the committee of the whole. So it's thank you for your patience with us.
No,
anyway,
it's good.
Okay, so now I will open the public hearing to public comments. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this, to all of these changes and revisions? Okay, you didn't receive any emails? Oh, we do have someone. Oh, I was wondering. Your name and...
Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, I think I was touching it. Hi, I'm Clark Bullen, and I live in District 3. And my question is, it's changing from an aggrieved person to a different definition. I forget what it was, but it specifically mentions living next to the property or having a grievance that is different in kind than the general community. My question really lies in is what defines a general community. Like let's say there's a group of people within the neighborhood that live close that don't necessarily have an adjoining property, but that group of people have a concern, and it's an equal concern amongst the whole neighborhood. I mean, is the whole community mean the whole community of Murray? Does it mean more than 10 people? I guess that's my question. If a smaller community, a neighborhood, was directly affected by this decision, could they make an appeal? Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Okay. Do we have any more questions or comments? Okay. Do you want to address that at this point?
Yeah, I can kind of address it. Again, this gets kind of into more legally stuff, so if I say something wrong, please interrupt me. So what it kind of means is that, so we would have to look at it on a case-by-case basis and determine and it would be in consultation with the attorney's office on whether that is, if there is a damage different in kind than the community writ large. As we know, the state, this is pretty much an exact copy of what the state had provided. So we are using that, and sometimes we just, I think we'll have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. That's for sure. So
I just add to that my understanding is that this comes out of what's called the Land Use Task Force, which is a group that meets at the legislation or at the legislature, and is made up of both private sector developers as well as cities and whoever else. And for years, this has been just a lingering question. If you have a project here on State Street, can someone over on 12th West challenge that? In the past, everybody's been reluctant to say no. This says no, basically. It's got to be an applicant that's right close, adjacent to it, or someone, this suffering damage different kind is what Zach's referring to as a case-by-case basis. The person who wants to appeal would have to demonstrate that they're being injured and it's different than basically everybody else. So this takes the potential appellants from about 50,000 to 1 on most applications. That's basically what that does.
Okay. Do we have any further comments? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and take it to the council for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the public hearing agenda item as noted.
I'll
Very
second.
good. All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? No discussion? Okay, Brooke, would you call the roll?
Aye.
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 No.
Aye. Okay. Let's see now. We're at business items. Number 1 is to consider a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and the Salt Lake County for the purpose of cost sharing for the 2022 and through 2028 UPDES media campaign, and Russ Kakla and Lynn Potter.
Yep. So yeah, we just would like you to approve the resolution for the interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County and Murray City for basically the media campaign slogan, we all live downstream, and to educate the public for the next 6 years and not do this again. So is there any questions?
Are there any questions at this point? If not, I would appreciate a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for considering a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and Salt Lake County for the purpose of cost sharing for the 2022-2028 UPDES media campaign.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Okay, Brooke, would you call the roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Okay, now number 2, we're to consider a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an interlocal cooperation agreement between Murray City Corporation and Salt Lake County for a contribution of TRCC funds to assist in financing the restoration of the Murray Theater. Kim Sorensen, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Council Mayor. So like you said, I'm here to ask you to consider authorizing a resolution to enter into an interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County to receive TRCC monies that'll go towards the restoration of the Murray Theater in the amount of $3,636,500. Now you may be thinking that we've already done this, which is true. Back in 2019, we received TRCC monies for the theater. We entered into an agreement with Salt Lake County and we began designing the theater. And then COVID hit, and the tax increment that feeds TRCC money, which is basically tourism dollars, dried up for a short time. So the Salt Lake County canceled that agreement and we ceased our work on the theater. Fortunately, it was only a short term that money was dried up. It came back. The TRCC board and the Salt Lake County is reinstating that grant. So, any questions?
Okay, I don't hear any questions, so I will request a motion.
I'll move we approve and authorize the execution of the interlocal cooperation agreement between Murray City Corporation and Salt Lake County for a contribution of TRCC funds to assist in financing the restoration of the Murray Theater.
I will second that.
All right. We have a second and a motion. Do we have any kind of discussion that you
I have a question. With this TRCC money, yeah.
Yeah.
Will we continuously get that, or is this the one-time fee or one-time deal?
So TRCC funds are a one-time deal. Each year, they're looked at depending on the amount of money that came in through the tax increment. This particular grant is 2 years. We'll get about half in 2022, and then the other half in 2023. Now, we can always apply for TRCC monies, but there's no guarantee that we would get them.
Okay, thank you.
Kim? Do we automatically apply for those funds, or how does that work?
So
The track funding.
that's a good question. We don't automatically apply for those funds. It depends on the projects that we have on the docket. I can tell you that we just recently applied for monies to help with the renovation of the Murray Museum, or the Murray Mansion. And then also a small amount we applied for the playground in Murray Park. We'll know in December if they make it to the mayor's and county council's budget.
Okay.
And next year, I haven't talked with the mayor about next year's, and I suspect we'll always apply if we have projects.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let them know we need the funding. So, okay. Any other?
I'm just
All right.
excited it's back.
Yeah, me too. Brooke, would you call the roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. We are now to the mayor's report and questions from the council.
I don't really have anything to report besides I was going to answer that question. Yes, we will be applying for. In fact, we are constantly applying for grants, and especially for the theater. But we're applying for a lot of things. We'll apply for the armory. We'll do whatever we can get. So it will be constant.
Good.
I call it automatic when you say that. Anyway, I don't have any questions from the council.
Okay.
Okay.
We are adjourned.